The day my mother died, she left me a house I had spent 20 years trying to forget. It stood at the end of a quiet road, surrounded by tall trees and an iron fence that had begun to rust. I hadn't been there since I was 16. Not because I hated the house. Because of what happened inside it. My mother had always refused to talk about that night. And now, after her death, she had left me one final letter. I opened it while sitting alone in her apartment. There were only 3 lines. Claire, the house is yours now. But whatever you do, don't trust the neighbor. I read it 3 times. Then I noticed something written beneath the signature. And never open the basement door. My hands went cold. The basement. I hadn't thought about that place in years. When I was 16, my mother had forbidden me from going downstairs. She told me there was nothing there except old furniture. But I remembered something different. I remembered hearing someone crying behind that door. And I remembered my mother screaming at me, "Never open it." The next morning, I drove to the house. The moment I arrived, I felt like I had made a mistake. Nothing had changed. The same crooked mailbox. The same large oak tree beside the driveway. Even the old wooden swing was still hanging from the porch. I unlocked the front door. Dust covered everything. My mother's furniture was still there. Her photographs. Her books. Her old clock. It felt as if she had simply stepped outside and would return any minute. I walked into the kitchen. On the table was another envelope. My name was written on it. I opened it. Claire, if you're reading this, you're probably wondering why I left the house to you. I need you to understand that I didn't keep the truth from you because I didn't love you. I kept it from you because I was afraid of what would happen if you knew. I stopped reading. The next line made my heart race. Your father didn't leave us. I dropped the letter. My father had supposedly abandoned us when I was 6. That was the story I had grown up believing. My mother always said he left one morning and never came back. I had spent years being angry at him. But now my mother's letter was telling me that everything I believed was a lie. I picked up the paper again. Ask Mr. Wilson about the night your father disappeared. Mr. Wilson. The neighbor. The same neighbor my mother had warned me not to trust. I looked through the kitchen window. His house was directly across the road. An old man was standing outside. Watching me. The moment our eyes met, he turned around and walked inside. My mother's warning suddenly felt very real. That evening, I searched the house. Closets. Drawers. Old cabinets. Nothing. Then I found a locked wooden box underneath my mother's bed. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. My father appeared in most of them. But there was something strange. In every photograph, another man appeared in the background. Mr. Wilson. Sometimes he was standing near the house. Sometimes near my father's car. Sometimes across the street. I stared at one photograph. It had been taken 3 days before my father disappeared. My father was standing on the porch. Mr. Wilson was behind him. And my mother was looking directly at the camera. She looked terrified. I turned the photograph over. There was handwriting on the back. He knows. That's all. Suddenly, I heard a noise downstairs. A heavy sound. Like something had fallen. I froze. The basement door was at the end of the hallway. The same door my mother had forbidden me to open. I walked toward it. My heart was pounding. I reached for the handle. Then I remembered her final warning. Never open the basement door. I stepped back. Another sound came from behind it. This time, it sounded like someone knocking. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 I ran upstairs. I locked myself in my mother's bedroom. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Nobody spoke. Hello? Silence. Then a man's voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." The call ended. I immediately looked out the window. Mr. Wilson's house was completely dark. But his car was gone. I barely slept that night. At 5:30 in the morning, I heard a vehicle stop outside. I looked through the curtain. It was Mr. Wilson. He walked toward my front door. I didn't open it. He knocked. "Claire?" I stayed silent. "I know you're inside." I still didn't move. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "Your mother told me never to tell you." I opened the door slightly. "What?" He looked at me. "She knew this day would come." "What day?" "The day you found out about your father." I opened the door. "Where is he?" "Mr. Wilson looked toward the road. "He's dead." I felt my chest tighten. "My mother said he didn't leave us." "He didn't." "Then what happened?" Mr. Wilson stepped closer. "Your father discovered something." "What?" He looked directly into my eyes. "Something hidden beneath your house." I glanced toward the hallway. "The basement?" He nodded. "Your mother spent 20 years making sure nobody opened that door." "Why?" "Because what's down there could destroy several people's lives." "Whose?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to leave. "Wait." He stopped. "What happened to my father?" He looked back. He trusted the wrong person. Then he walked away. I closed the door. My hands were shaking. I went straight to the basement. I stood in front of the door for several minutes. Then I inserted the key. My mother had left it taped underneath the wooden box. I turned it. The lock clicked. The door opened. A cold smell came from downstairs. I switched on the light. It flickered. Then stayed on. The basement was much larger than I remembered. Old shelves covered the walls. Boxes were stacked everywhere. But at the far end was something I had never seen before. A second door. Metal. Heavy. And there was a small red light above it. I walked closer. There was a keypad. 4 numbers. I had no idea what the code was. Then I remembered my mother's letter. I took it from my pocket. At the bottom, beneath her signature, there was one final line I hadn't noticed. "Use the date you think your father died." I entered the date. The light turned green. The metal door unlocked. I slowly opened it. Inside was a small room. There was a desk. A chair. Several boxes. And a wall covered with photographs. My father. My mother. Mr. Wilson. And me. Hundreds of photographs. Someone had been watching our family for years. Then I saw a video camera on the desk. Beside it was a note. "Claire, if you found this room, you're finally ready to know the truth." I pressed the camera's power button. The screen came alive. My mother appeared. She looked much younger. She was crying. "If you're watching this," she said, "then I'm gone." She looked directly into the camera. "I need you to listen carefully." She wiped her eyes. "Your father didn't abandon us." She paused. "He was murdered." I stopped breathing. "And the person responsible," my mother's voice broke, "has been living across the road from you for the last 30 years. The video suddenly cut to black. I stared at the screen. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Someone had entered the house. And a man's voice called from the hallway, "Claire?" It was Mr. Wilson. I froze. Mr. Wilson was upstairs. I could hear his footsteps moving slowly across the wooden floor. "Claire?" His voice sounded calm. Too calm. I switched off the camera and grabbed the USB drive sitting beside it. Then I looked around the room. There had to be another way out. Behind the desk was a narrow door. I opened it. It led to a dark storage tunnel. I grabbed my phone and stepped inside. I quietly closed the door behind me. A few seconds later, I heard the basement door open. Mr. Wilson walked downstairs. "Claire?" I held my breath. His footsteps stopped outside the hidden room. The door opened. Silence. Then he whispered, "She found it." I covered my mouth. Another voice answered him. A man's voice. "Then we have a problem." I didn't recognize it. Mr. Wilson replied, "She knows about her father." The other man said, "Does she have the recording?" "Yes." I looked at the USB drive in my hand. They knew. I moved deeper into the tunnel. After several minutes, I found a small metal door. It opened into the backyard. I ran to my car and drove away. I didn't stop until I reached the town police station. I handed the USB drive to Detective Harris, the only person I trusted. He listened to the recording. His expression changed. "Claire, this is serious." "What do you mean?" He rewound the final few seconds. My mother's voice played again. "The person responsible has been living across the road." Then the recording ended. Detective Harris looked at me. "Your mother knew who killed your father." "Mr. Wilson?" "Maybe." "Then arrest him. We need evidence." "I have the video." "We need the original recording and proof connecting him to your father's death." I stared at him. "How do we get that?" He leaned forward. "Go back." I stared at him. "Back to the house?" "Yes." "No, Claire, your mother spent 20 years collecting evidence." He pointed at the USB. "This is only part of it." He was right. But I was terrified. We returned to the house that evening. The basement door was open. Mr. Wilson was gone. Detective Harris searched the hidden room. He opened one of the boxes. Inside were old newspapers. One headline caught my attention. "Local businessman disappears, police suspect foul play." My father's name was underneath. I picked up another newspaper. It mentioned a company called Westbrook Industries. My father had been the company's financial director. Detective Harris found an old ledger. "This is interesting." "What?" "These payments." He pointed to several transactions. Money had been transferred to an account belonging to Mr. Wilson. But there was something stranger. The payments continued for years after my father supposedly died. I felt sick. Why would my mother pay him? Harris shook his head. "She wasn't paying him." He pointed to the signature. "This isn't your mother's signature." "Then whose is it?" He looked at me. "Your father's." My father had been making payments after his supposed death. That meant one thing. He might have been alive. We searched the room again. Behind the wall photographs, Detective Harris found a hidden compartment. Inside was a passport. My father's passport. It had been issued 5 years after his supposed death. My hands began shaking. He was alive. Harris nodded. "But where?" Then we found another photograph. My father was standing outside a small house. Beside him was my mother. And beside my mother was a little girl. Me. But the photograph had been taken only 8 years earlier. I stared at it. "I don't remember this." Harris looked confused. Neither do I. On the back was an address. We drove there that night. The house was abandoned. Inside, we found old furniture and a box of photographs. Then we heard a noise upstairs. Harris pulled out his weapon. "Stay behind me." We climbed the stairs. A bedroom door was slightly open. Harris pushed it. An old man was sitting beside the window. He turned around. I stopped. I knew that face. It was my father. He looked at me. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "Claire." I started crying. "You're alive." He nodded. "I've been waiting for you." I walked toward him. "Why did you leave us?" He looked down. "I didn't." "Then why?" He took a deep breath. "Because your mother saved my life." "What?" 20 years ago, I discovered that several executives at Westbrook Industries were stealing millions. He looked toward Detective Harris. "I found the evidence." "And Mr. Wilson?" "He was involved." I felt my heart race. "My mother said he killed you." My father shook his head. "He tried." "What happened?" "He attacked me. I survived. But everyone believed I was dead." "Why didn't you come back?" "Because the people behind the theft threatened your mother." He looked at me. "They told her that if I returned, they would kill you." I couldn't speak. "So my mother knew you were alive?" "Yes." "Why did she never tell me?" "Because she wanted you to have a normal life." Tears filled my eyes. "She lied to me for 20 years. She lied because she loved you." Then my father looked at Detective Harris. "Did you find the ledger?" "Yes." My father closed his eyes. "Then they know." "Who?" He looked at me. "The people who killed your mother's reputation." I frowned. "My mother's reputation?" He explained. After he disappeared, the company had blamed my mother for financial crimes. She had spent years fighting accusations. She lost friends. She lost money. She became isolated. But she never stopped looking for the truth. "She knew I would eventually find the house," my father said. "That is why she left everything to you." I remembered the letter. "Don't trust the neighbor." I looked at my father. "Then why did she specifically warn me about Mr. Wilson?" "Because he wasn't working alone." Suddenly, Detective Harris's phone rang. He answered. His expression changed. "Okay." He ended the call. "What happened?" I asked. "They found Mr. Wilson." "Where?" "He's at the cemetery." We drove there. Mr. Wilson was standing beside my mother's grave. He looked old and exhausted. He didn't run. He simply said, "She finally told you." I stepped toward him. "You killed my father." He shook his head. "No, you lied to my mother." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of who?" He looked at Detective Harris. Then at me. "Your mother's brother." I froze. "My uncle?" Mr. Wilson nodded. "He was the man behind everything." I remembered my uncle. He had disappeared from our lives years ago. I had always been told he moved overseas. Mr. Wilson continued, "He used your father to hide the money. My father discovered it. And when he tried to expose him, your uncle ordered his death." "Then why did you help him?" Mr. Wilson looked down. "Because I was young and stupid." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. "This belonged to your mother." I opened it. Inside was a letter. "Claire, if you're reading this, you found your father. There is one final truth I couldn't tell you. The man you call your uncle isn't your uncle. I stopped breathing. I read the next line. He's your biological father. The world seemed to disappear around me. I looked at the date. The letter had been written only 3 days before my mother died. I looked at the man standing beside me. My father. The man I had spent my entire childhood believing was my father. Then I looked at Mr. Wilson. He whispered, "Your mother never wanted you to know." My father stepped forward. "Claire," I couldn't move. Everything I knew about my family had been built on lies. My father wasn't my biological father. The man responsible for the entire conspiracy was the person I had called Uncle Robert. And suddenly, I remembered something from childhood. Uncle Robert always told me, "If you ever need anything, I'm here." I thought it was kindness. Now I understood. It had been guilt. Detective Harris immediately began searching for Robert. His house was empty. His bank accounts were closed. His passport was missing. He had disappeared. But before leaving, he had made one mistake. He had accessed an old company account. The police tracked the transaction. It led to an airport. We arrived just before midnight. Robert was standing at the departure gate. I approached him. "Robert." He turned. For a moment, he looked shocked. Then he smiled. "You found me." "Why?" He looked at me. "Because I was afraid. You destroyed my family. I protected myself. You murdered people." He shook his head. "I never killed your father." "Then who did?" Robert looked at Mr. Wilson. "He knows." Everyone turned. Mr. Wilson lowered his head. Then he finally confessed. He had attacked my father 20 years earlier. He believed he had killed him. But my father survived. My mother secretly helped him disappear. Robert had spent years believing my father was dead. The conspiracy had continued because everyone was protecting themselves. Mr. Wilson was arrested. Robert was arrested for financial crimes and conspiracy. The company was investigated. Millions of dollars were recovered. And my father's name was finally cleared. Months later, I returned to my mother's house. The basement was empty now. No secrets. No hidden cameras. No locked doors. Just an old room filled with memories. I placed my mother's final letter on the desk. Then I found something underneath it. A photograph. My mother. My father. And me. On the back she had written, "The truth may hurt, Claire. But a life built on lies hurts more." I cried for a long time. I had spent my whole life believing my mother had hidden the truth because she didn't trust me. But I finally understood. She had hidden it because she loved me enough to carry the burden herself. Before leaving the house, I looked across the road. Mr. Wilson's house was empty. The curtains were gone. The windows were dark. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of that house. I wasn't afraid of the basement. And I wasn't afraid of the truth. I closed the front door behind me. Then I remembered my mother's final warning. Don't trust the neighbor. She had been right. But she had left out one thing. Sometimes the person standing closest to your family isn't the one you should fear. Sometimes the biggest secret is the person you thought you knew your entire life. And sometimes, the truth doesn't destroy a family. It finally sets it free.